A single cold email campaign made us over $100,000 in less than 60 days. And the best part about it is that we had predicted everything from the very beginning. So to put things into context, 3 months ago, our friends over at Comma Copywriters reached out because they needed help increasing their lead flow for their business. They help other business owners write valuable content with highly trained copywriters. And after just a couple of hours of chatting with Crystal and her team, gathering information around their ideal customer profile, their offer, their case studies, we realized that we had one big problem. Their total addressable market was really tiny, meaning that we had to be extremely careful about the lead list that we built, knowing that we'd probably burned through all of the prospects in just a matter of a couple of months. So knowing all of this, the BuzzLead team got right to work. So the first thing we did was set up the campaign infrastructure. This consisted of 35 subdomains, 70 email accounts, and with those 70 email accounts, we did a 50-50 split of Gmail inboxes and Outlook inboxes. The reason that we did this is so that we could optimize email deliverability by matching email server providers. And the way we were able to automate this whole process and do it automatically was through an email sending platform called smartly.ai. But infrastructure really doesn't mean all that much if you're not adapting the campaign to relevant case studies and reaching out to a large addressable market. And with what Crystal Lee had shared around her ideal customer profile, we really came to the conclusion that all they were looking to do was get in touch with customers that were able to simply afford their services. So in speaking with them, they told us that they wanted to go after marketing tech companies, fintech companies, education technology companies, and then they also mentioned that they had a handful of different retail companies that could afford, their services. The thing is, they had case studies all over the place that were phenomenal. And really, we just needed to be strategic with our approach to building lead list. So we ended up taking customization to a whole new level. What I'm about to show you is about to blow your mind. We used clay.com, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of hacks of how we turn this tiny market into a massive market while still keeping our emails personalized, relevant, and custom to each prospect that we were reaching out to, and how we used our case studies to really anchor it all and make it make sense. So the campaign was now broken out into two different divisions. We actually created two different campaigns that were run simultaneously, and we decided that the two markets we wanted to go after were software / SaaS companies. And then we also wanted to go after retail companies, and we decided to create lead list as large as possible, knowing that the only things that we really wanted to focus on was that these companies were making at least $100 million a year and that they had at least 100 employees. Those were the criteria that were extremely important to Crystal Lee and her team. So we knew that the market was actually much bigger, but we created these massive lead lists, and then we used clay.com to really segment this list and create different sub-niche categories. And I'm about to walk you through the 3 strategies that we used that made this all happen. And thanks to AI, it can automatically do the majority of the work for you if you plug in these prompts that I'm about to show you. As I mentioned, the target markets that they were directing us to go after, it was limited to about 10,000 companies in total. So we would probably burn through those lead lists in about 2 months. And then we would have to simply be reusing, rinsing, and repeating the lead list. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted a much larger market that we can go after. So we created lead lists as large as possible across the software, SaaS, and technology space, and then across the retail space. They had to have at least $10 million in annual revenue and at least 100 employees. Now, we used clay.com to actually classify the different leads and give us sub-niche categories that these different companies actually fell under. So we used AI to tell us exactly what sub-niche a company would fall under in the SaaS software tech space with the help of ChatGPT, and the same thing would go for the retail space. So we used AI to tell us exactly what sub-niche each company would actually fall under, and then with that information, we were able to find pain points that would be relevant in a method that we use called poking the bear. So that way, each message that we're reaching out to, we could call out exactly who we help. So rather than just saying, I help SaaS companies or I help retail companies, we could say something more along the lines of, I help agricultural technology companies, or I help fintech companies. And AI would actually do this for us. And then with that workflow that we used, we would then use ChatGPT to research and identify pain points that are relevant to a prospect based on their job title and then based off the sub-niche industry that they're in. So I provided here, and you can see it on the screen, the prompt that you feed ChatGPT. And then we want to use this. That's going to end up formulating into our scripts. It's going to make more sense once I get to that section. But essentially, we're trying to find pain points that are relevant to our solution, pain points that would make a prospect trigger any sort of action or response to want to talk to us because they know our solution could help them with the big problem that they're facing. So after we did that, after we used AI to classify the different leads, and after we used ChatGPT to conduct some research to find good pain points to lead with, we then used AI to actually come up with content ideas based on the company's description. We have another prompt here that you can see it in the image above. So what this allowed us to do is feed AI the prompt to basically go to the prospect's website, look at their keywords, their topics, their descriptions, and essentially come up with content ideas that it looks like we came up with ourselves by going and hand sifting through the list one by one. Meanwhile, it was just us feeding AI a prompt to go ahead and do that for us. What the aftermath of all of this different strategy did for us was it gave us a much larger market that we can go after, while still being able to achieve what Crystalie and her team wanted, which was reaching out to companies doing $10 million plus, 100 employees plus. And we were also able to really personalize our scripts and make every single email that we send relevant to the individual prospect that we're reaching out to. And then we were able to tie our services and give creative content and blog ideas to that prospect as if we went and did all the research ourselves. We did do the research, but AI just helped us with it. So the aftermath was we ended up coming up with 2 different lead lists with all of this personalization here. 6,000 across the SaaS campaign, 6,000 across the retail campaign. Now, looking into the script writing process itself, I'm going to keep it simple here and just give you all a template that we used, because I do have another video on my YouTube channel where you can actually watch and find all the scripts that we wrote, where it really gives you the entire 3 to 4 step email sequence. But essentially the template we followed was the intro, why you, why now? We always like to poke the bear and drive urgency and initiate some sort of conversation by poking the prospect where it hurts, depending on who they are. Then that flows into the pitch, which we like to use a format. I help X do Y by Z. And then you want to use social proof. These are just going to be case studies that you can anchor to your script. And then a value-driven call to action, something that the prospect would typically pay for. And the way that we did this was actually showing the live examples of, content that we actually did for other relevant prospects, people that were also in a similar industry. So that way the person that we're sending it to, they could see something that would probably look really good if they had it for their business. Here's the examples, and I'm just going to read through example 2 where we're actually poking the bear. Hi John, leading up content and marketing efforts, is it difficult to consistently produce high quality content to your audience and drive continual user engagement? So right there, we're hitting them in a spot that we know that it hurts. If they're going to be the chief marketing officer, obviously producing great content is extremely important to them. Our pitch is, if so, we could provide you an unlimited amount of high authority written content with 2 or more dedicated specialized copywriters to save your team time, money, and energy. We recently partnered with Bamboo HR and increased their organic traffic by 72% by posting 15 long-form pieces of content over 8 months, all without taking time from their marketing and research team. Mind if I send over a few writing samples? Or mind if I send over a couple of relevant writing samples? But that's essentially the flow. You can see a couple of other examples here. And now on to what matters most, the actual results that this campaign produced and how we were able to manage the inbox replies, convert these interested prospects into booked sales calls. So inbox management at scale can be pretty tedious, time consuming, and it's no easy task. Because if you have a really good campaign and you're reaching out to a lot of people, you've got to be on top of it like white on rice. So that way you're making sure that you're responding to prospects immediately and you're pushing them closer to having that conversation with you over a sales meeting. So the flow that we used was every time we received an interested response from a prospect, we would get a notification in our Slack channel that showed the message itself, what the prospect responded with, a link to it so we could respond directly there from Slack, and it also included the phone number of the prospect. So right after we send over the writing samples, we then have the prospect's information and we can warm call them, because everybody knows that things happen more quickly over phone calls. And now we're hitting up with an omni-channel approach by emailing them, then cold calling them, or warm calling them in this case. And with that said, we were able to book a ton of meetings, and you could take a look at the results right here. But essentially in campaign 1, 6,000 leads, 36 positive replies, 18 meetings. Campaign number 2, 6,200 leads, 29 positive replies, 19 meetings. We ran these simultaneously. One was the SaaS campaign, and then the other was the retail campaign. In total, 37 meetings in just 60 days, and that led to 4 annual contracts for comma copywriters worth over $100,000 in revenue, and it was all thanks to us getting creative with the strategy that we had pivoted to. You know, if you want to see the actual full interview where we walk through the client case study with Crystalia herself, you can see it right here. Then tune in. You'll see a little bit more detail as to what we did. You'll hear about Crystalia and her experience in working with BuzzLead, and you know, highly recommend you check that out. Outside of that, if you want to have results like this so you can sign over $100,000 in revenue for your business in the next couple of months, then check us out here at BuzzLead. We'd love to have a conversation. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.